everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John, and today here on the channel, we're going to be doing another top 10 list for you guys. We're going to be counting down the top 10 movies on 4K Blu-ray from the 1990s that you must have in your collection. This is the sequel to the same list that we did for the 1980s, so we're going to be following the same exact rules. This list necessarily isn't my favorite movies of the 1990s or even my favorite 4K Blu-rays of the 1990s. It's a combination of both, so the film itself has to be pretty good. The 4K Blu-ray itself has to be pretty good, so if there's a film on this list that I absolutely love, but it has an atrocious 4K Blu-ray, or it hasn't even come to 4K Blu-ray, it will not make this list. And just remember, guys, this is my own personal top 10 list, so if you disagree with that, I can appreciate that very much. I would actually love to know, what are your top 10 films of the 1990s that you must have on 4K Blu-ray? Leave those in the comments section below. And this is also our weekly digital code giveaway video, so make sure you stick around to the end of this so you guys know how to enter that. And without further ado, let's dive right into this with number 10.
Flatliners. Some lines shouldn't be crossed.
And at number 10, we get 1990's Flatliners, directed by Joel Schumacher before he basically just kind of got ridiculed for 1995's Batman Forever and Batman and Robin in 1997.
You are not sending me to the corridor.
Before that, Joel Schumacher was a great filmmaker that was really appreciated. He made The Lost Boys, he made Falling Down, and he also made Flatliners, which is actually my favorite of those three films. As much as I love The Lost Boys, it is an 80s staple, and it stars Kiefer Sutherland, who also stars in this movie as well, so he's teaming up again with Joel Schumacher. And these aren't necessarily Brat Pack actors, but they kind of came out of that same mold of the 1980s. You know, we also get Kevin Bacon in this movie. It is a fantastic, well-shot, a little over the top, and a little bit cheesy, but still a great film. And this Arrow Video 4K Blu-ray really lent itself so well to the movie. I really thought that this is one of the best transfers Arrow Video has ever done, and it really doesn't get appreciated. It came out in 2022. It just kind of came and went, mainly like Flatliners. I feel like Flatliners itself has gotten really forgotten, despite the fact that it did get a remake that is considered very bad at this point. But the original from 1990 is a fantastic film that has a great sci-fi plot that, again, might feel a little bit cheesy, but it is just so much fun. It's so entertaining, and if you haven't seen Flatliners, I could definitely just recommend the film on its own, even if you don't want to grab this Arrow Video 4K Blu-ray.
When I find you.
Pop quiz, hotshot. There's a bomb on a bus.
And then at number 9, we get John DeBont's 1994 action film, Speed. And this is the movie that put Keanu Reeves on the map for me personally. I was born in 1992, so in my household, we had Speed on VHS, and we also had Speed 2 Cruise Control on VHS. So we watched the hell out of those movies when I was growing up. I don't really necessarily recommend Speed 2 Cruise Control unless you're just kind of a fan of the Speed films, but the original one from 1994, often called Die Hard on a Bus, which makes a lot of sense because the director John DeBont, who also directed Twister, he was the cinematographer for Die Hard. I guess working with John McTiernan, you know what? I know what you want to do. I kind of get this. I'm on the same page as you. I'm going to make my own film, but this time it's going to be on a bus, and we got to keep that bad boy above 50 miles per hour. That bus was driven by Sandra Bullock in a star-making performance, and her and Keanu Reeves just had great chemistry and really made Keanu Reeves an action star. Before this, he was kind of really just known as the guy from Bill and Ted, and, you know, he was great in Point Break, but I don't think a lot of people realized by 1994 that Johnny Utah was one of the best characters out there. Shit! Which brings us to number 8, and of course that movie is going to be 1991's Point Break. And this movie again stars Keanu Reeves. We just were talking about Johnny Utah. This movie is directed by Catherine Bigelow. Came out 1 week after Terminator II, and which is funny because she was married to James Cameron. You can see James Cameron's name in the credits of this film. He really played a big part in making this movie work. Actually, he's the guy who came up with the ex-presidents. So the ex-presidents are very memorable in this film, led by Patrick Swayze in one of my favorite Swayze performances. He is just great as Bodhi in this movie, and him and Keanu Reeves again have great chemistry. I absolutely love this movie. One of my favorite action movies of all time. This Shout Factory 4K Blu-ray that came out last year also came out with this incredible steelbook. One of my favorite steelbooks of all time. I mean, the camera is probably not doing justice to how good this 4K Blu-ray looks. And the 4K Blu-ray itself, maybe not 10 out of 10 visuals or audio. Bringing this movie, which had a really dated Blu-ray, to 4K Blu-ray, it's just absolutely stunning, and I can highly recommend it. And the film itself is just a joy. I could rewatch this one day after day after day. I think about Gary Busey in this movie all the time.
Utah, give me 2.
which is crazy because Gary Busey's absolutely lost his mind, but he is so good in this movie. I absolutely love this movie from top to bottom. John C. McGinley.
I mean, you're just as bad as he is. Only you're a little fatter, you're a little slower, and a little more pathetic.
Have to put this at number 8. And then at number 7, let's complete the Keanu Reeves 90s action film trilogy with 1999's The Matrix. And this is probably, other than John Wick, Keanu Reeves' most famous performance as Neo in the Matrix movies. Now, the 3 Matrix films that came after this, I think are all pretty bad, but the original one from 1999, the best year in film arguably, gave us this film. And this movie is fantastic. Not only is it philosophical, not only is it beautifully shot, not only does it have some of the best wire effects in film history, but the Wachowskis just crafted a masterpiece. A masterpiece in the sci-fi genre, the sci-fi action genre that really changed film forever. Now, they weren't able to follow this one up with any good quality films. You can argue that 2008 Speed Racer is a good film. I would love to see that on 4K Blu-ray, but this movie itself is a freaking masterpiece, and I saw this movie in Dolby Theaters when they gave us this brand new scan. I think it was 2019, and it transfers great itself to the 4K Blu-ray disc. You can buy this in a 3-pack with the other 2 movies, but I only recommend you checking this one out because it is one of the best films of the 1990s, and the 4K Blu-ray itself really is fantastic. I highly recommend it.
I bet you even called us beavers on your CB radio, didn't you?
Yeah, sure did.
Damn, I hate that. I hate being called a beaver, don't you?
And that means that at number 6, we are going to be getting Thelma and Louise. And this Criterion 4K Blu-ray actually really increased my love for this film. This wouldn't have cracked my top 5 Ridley Scott films until this Criterion 4K Blu-ray came out last year. And now this has cemented itself at number 3, only behind Blade Runner and Alien, which are 2 of my favorite films of all time. But this is a different Ridley Scott film. I've always felt like Ridley Scott is at the mercy of whatever script he gets, very similar to Tim Burton. And this is a fantastic screenplay. Gina Davis and Susan Sarandon do a great job in this movie. You also get a great Harvey Keitel performance in this movie. I never really realized, but Harvey Keitel was working a lot in the 1990s. He really doesn't get a lot of credit for his big comeback in the 1990s, but he really was doing a lot. And he gives a great performance in this movie as well. Stephen Tobolowsky pops up in here, as he pops up in so many movies in the 1990s, like Groundhog Day and Sneakers, right around the same exact time. But this movie has not only just a great film, but it has a great Hans Zimmer score. It has a great story and plot in here. I mean, it's beautiful, and it builds up to a beautiful ending, and I just love every single aspect of this movie. And this Criterion Collection 4K Blu-ray was number 2 on my top 10 must-own of 2023, and for good reason. But not many 4K Blu-rays can make you fall in love with a film again, but this Criterion 4K Blu-ray really made me love Thelma and Louise. So I have to recommend this one and put it at number 6.
We don't stop till the screaming starts, you dig?
And that brings us to number 5, The Frighteners. And I would have not even put this movie on the list had Frank's Media and Reviews not told me about this beautiful Turbine 4K Blu-ray box set that came out. And my God, this is one of my favorite pieces in my entire collection. It's a little bit pricey, but I still think it's a steal at the price it is. This is a 6-disc set. It's a German release, but every single disc will work with whatever region you're in. And the movie itself, directed by Peter Jackson before the Lord of the Rings films, and these are the movies that he really liked to direct before that. He was a big horror guy, and this is one of the best horror comedies of all time. It stars Michael J. Fox in his last great performance, and the movie itself, it just combines horror and comedy perfectly. I mean, not many movies can pull that off, but this movie really does. The CGI special effects still hold up so well to this day.
They don't call me the hanging judge for nothing.
They transfer great to 4K Blu-ray, and that's because Peter Jackson actually had these special effects done in his New Zealand studio, and he would send the shots over back to Universal in the United States at the time. You know, he really was trusted to do whatever he wanted, and he crafted a great film. And I'm really glad that Turbine gave us this awesome 4K Blu-ray box set, because it does have one of the best on-disc documentaries that you will ever see. They leave no stone unturned. If you're a fan of this movie, this is by far one of the best collector's editions out there, and you owe it to yourself to pick this one up. But again, it's pretty pricey, so I understand if you want to give it a pass. But this 4K Blu-ray, not only does it have some of the best extras you'll ever see, but also has some of the best visuals, some of the best audio, some of the best packaging. I did a full review here on the channel. Definitely check this one out. And this one is at number 5, mainly on that 4K Blu-ray box set, which is just fantastic. But the film itself is also really good. And that brings us to number 4, and that is 1992's Batman Returns. After the success of 1989's Batman, Tim Burton was basically given carte blanche to make whatever movie he wanted, and this is definitely a Tim Burton movie more than a Batman movie. Now, Batman 89 is my favorite Batman film of all time, my favorite superhero film of all time. That's because it checks a lot of personal boxes for me. You get Michael Keaton, you get Batman, you get Jack Nicholson, you get Prince, and you also get that amazing Danny Elfman score, which might be my favorite of all time. So following it up with 1992's Batman Returns, you know, we were in for something good, and this one really scared off parents to the point where Warner Brothers was like, oh man, we didn't get that much of a return on it. You know, we want to sell some toys here. So they decided to bring in Joel Schumacher and essentially ruin his career, make him direct Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, but we still get Batman Returns. We bring in the best Catwoman of all time.
Meow.
Michelle Pfeiffer. We get Danny DeVito just doing absolutely disgusting stuff as the Penguin in this movie.
Still, could be worse. My nose could be gushing blood. Your nose could be... What do you mean by that?
And it looks great on 4K Blu-ray. Now, as much as I love 89's Batman, you know, that movie itself was shot very dark, so even though it's a good 4K Blu-ray, it just gets so much enhanced when we get to Batman Returns. The snow on the ground, it's kind of a pseudo-Christmas movie, so we get the big Christmas tree with the Christmas lights, and I just think that this movie lent itself much better to the 4K format. Out of those 4 4K Blu-rays we got at the time, we got Batman, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin. I think Batman Returns really does stand out in the crowd when it comes to those 4K Blu-rays in that box set, but I still think that Batman 89 is the better film, but that came out in the 1980s, and I still absolutely love Batman Returns. I watch it every single Christmas, and this 4K Blu-ray looks absolutely gorgeous. So if you're a fan of this movie, definitely pick up this 4K.
Let me drive, Harry. I'll make a fool of you.
And then at number 3, you guys have heard me talk about this movie a lot here on the channel. I even had it at number 1 on my most underrated 4K Blu-rays of all time, and that is Days of Thunder from 1990, directed by Tony Scott, who I actually appreciate more than Ridley Scott. As much as I love Ridley Scott, he's made some of my favorite films ever. Tony Scott has also directed some of my favorite films ever, and I just feel like he's more consistent in his quality of work. I mean, whether it be in Beverly Hills Cop 2, True Romance, The Last Boy Scout, The Fan, he just always has that distinct look to his movies. They're always fun, they always fly by, they're paced great, they usually have great scores. You know, they're a little bit over the top, and I absolutely love them for it. You know, this is the guy who gave us Top Gun, and people have said that Days of Thunder is just Top Gun on wheels, and they are not wrong about that. As much as I love Top Gun, I love Days of Thunder more, and I'm also a big Tom Cruise head, so you know I love this movie for that. This guy plays Cole Trickle in this movie, an up-and-coming NASCAR driver, big NASCAR fan here. He's basically got a rival in this movie played by the great Michael Rooker, and every time I think of Michael Rooker, I don't think of Guardians of the Galaxy. I think of Rowdy Burns in Days of Thunder. I just love this movie top to bottom. And then this 4K Blu-ray, it really doesn't get enough love. Not only the visuals fantastic, but the audio track, it's not even a Dolby Atmos track. It's a DTS HD 5.1, and it's by far the best you are ever going to hear. I mean, this movie features so many great racing scenes. It's got some great needle drops. It's got a great Hans Zimmer score. It all comes in so perfectly. I mean, this 4K Blu-ray, it's usually pretty cheap too, is an absolute steal because it is one of the best transfers that I have ever seen. It just does not get enough love. It really deserves more appreciation, just like the film does. So that's why Days of Thunder is number 3 for me. And then at number 2, we get 1992's Malcolm X. And you guys have heard me talk about this film on the channel before. This is what I consider the greatest biopic film of all time. This movie should have won Denzel Washington his second Academy Award. We ended up making it up to him for 2001's Training Day because we were already giving out a makeup Oscar that year. We were giving it to Al Pacino for Scent of a Woman because we didn't give it to him for The Godfather Part 2, Dog Day Afternoon, or Serpico in the 70s. No. We had to give it to him for Scent of a Woman when he just started the woo-ha.
Hoo-ah!
And that was it. So then we eventually had to make it up to Denzel, which is really a shame because this is arguably, and in my opinion, Denzel Washington's best performance. He teams up with one of my favorite directors of all time, Spike Lee, shot by Ernest Dickerson, who was a great director in himself, came out the same year as Juice, which he directed. And this movie is just a combination of so many great things. The production design, the screenplay, it is a beautiful, one-of-a-kind film that I think every cinephile needs to see. And this Criterion 4K Blu-ray is one of the best out there. It actually came out the same day as Wall-E and this beautiful digipack. And I mean, my God, what a great film, what a great 4K Blu-ray. I can highly recommend this one.
Same make, same model. New mission.
Which brings us to number one, 1991's Terminator 2 on 4K Blu-ray. One of the best films, if not my favorite film of the 1990s. I'm just kidding around with you guys. Obviously, Terminator 2, as much as I love that movie, these 4K Blu-rays are not that good. We've complained about these scans for so long. That's why people get so nervous and so scared about any James Cameron film coming to 4K Blu-ray, because of what they did, how they massacred our boy with these 4K Blu-rays. It really hurts, but you know what? I still have it twice, mainly because this steelbook is great. So anyway, let's get on to the real number one.
Oh, what the fuck's happening? Oh,
Man, man. Oh, man, I shot Marvin in the face.
And this may be considered a cheat because, you know, I'm putting two movies at number one, but...
Well, I have a microphone, and you don't.
So you will listen to every damn word I have to say!
Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, the first two films from Quentin Tarantino, two of my favorite films of all time. Pulp Fiction is actually my second favorite film of all time, only behind The Terminator. And I was really worried when these movies were coming to 4K Blu-ray. They weren't coming from a boutique label. At the time, we had only had Inglourious Basterds and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood on 4K Blu-ray, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a Sony release, so of course that one looked and sounded great, but Inglourious Basterds was not a great release, so I was worried, are they going to half-ass these movies? You know, Quentin Tarantino doesn't seem like he's very hands-on and bringing these to 4K Blu-ray. You know, he's more of a film fan, like actually a fan of film. He even owns the New Beverly out in Los Angeles, which still projects movies in film, so I don't think he really cares too much about the 4K Blu-ray format, and I don't think he was hands-on with getting these transfers done, but it doesn't really matter. These transfers are both fantastic. There's stuff in both of these movies that I have never noticed before, just because we're enhancing the resolution and just really making the colors pop off the screen so much more than they ever did. I mean, I think about an awning in the diner in the opening scene of Reservoir Dogs, that pink and black awning. Never thought about that before because it never stuck out to me, but these 4K Blu-rays just enhance that so much. And then of course the great needle drops throughout both Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction introduced me to songs that I had never heard of before. And then of course the over-the-top violence, I absolutely loved it. Pulp Fiction is probably the movie that really made me fall in love with cinema, the non-linear storytelling. So you just know I wanted these to be in beautiful 4K Blu-ray with some of the highest quality discs, and both of these got steelbook and slipcover releases, and they both look and sound fantastic, so those have to be my number one for the 1990s. And there's some honorable mentions I want to throw out there, like JFK that came out at the end of the last year, and Titanic that came out in 2023 as well. Those are both great 4K Blu-ray releases as well. I just think when you combine the film itself with the quality of the disc, you know, Titanic is not one of my favorite James Cameron movies. JFK, as much as I love it, it would have kind of came in that like 11, 12 range. I couldn't have put it on that top 10 list, but it's still a great 4K Blu-ray as well. So there are plenty of them out there, so make sure you guys let me know in the comment section below which ones did I forget, which ones would you include in your top 10. Let me know. And then while you guys are down there, it's also Friday, and that means it's time for our digital code giveaway. In every single video we do here on Friday, I'm going to ask you guys 2 digital code giveaway questions. All you got to do is answer one, and as long as you do that, you come back to Monday's video. I put your name on a magic wheel, spin that bad boy 2 times. The 2 names it lands on, they have their choice of the digital codes that you've seen on your screen before you today. And we're talking 90s, so I want to know, what is your favorite 90s action movie? And what is your favorite 90s comedy movie? Don't forget to leave those in the comment section below while you're down there. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on, share this video, and if you want to become a channel member, we have 3 tiers of that as well. Friends of the channel. You can even become a channel producer like John Doe Juggalo, Jason Martin, and Mr. Smelly Potato, or you can even become a channel director like Frank's Media and Reviews. But if you got no money to toss our way, don't you guys worry about it. We just appreciate you checking out this video. We really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure you guys get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then after you're done doing all that, we'll be seeing you around.